I wish I had learned this truth many years ago. Be thankful for the days, good and bad.
All right, welcome to episode 17 of Warrior versus Zombie, and I've got an incredible guest here today, an incredible warrior, somebody I've gotten to know, Doug Grady. I'll tell you a little bit more about him in just a second, but first I want, for those who maybe haven't been with us before on Warrior versus Zombie, or maybe you've forgotten why you're here, let me tell you about Warrior versus Zombie. So success is a journey, it's not a destination. As warriors, we all have our history of ups and downs, wins and losses that are all part of making us who we are up to this point, and they provide a foundation for our path forward. We all battle our inner zombie as well as those zombies in our world, and in each episode I interview warriors who are aspiring leaders from all walks of life, entrepreneurs, artists, health practitioners, business owners, speakers, coaches, really any inspired leader that has a story to tell. These warriors have a cause, they have unique value, and they have a vision that goes generations into the future. And today's guest, today's warrior, is Doug Grady. Doug is an incredible warrior, and through his journey of over 30 years in business, he's become an author, an international speaker, transformational leader, mentor, and teacher. Doug has helped thousands of people reclaim their focus and grow toward their personal potential. As a speaker, he's been on the TEDx stage and delivered countless keynotes. He's the author of The Ripple Effect, which has been widely read and highly endorsed. He also developed the life-changing program, 40 Days of Focus. Doug also invests a significant portion of his time and money to local and global causes. He's been on several missions trips, including Ecuador, where he is part of a 12-man team building homes for the poorest of the poor. His companies, writings, trainings, and music are designed with one purpose, and I love this, to help people reach their God-given potential. Doug Grady, welcome to Warrior versus Zombie. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much, David. Are you in warrior zone or zombie zone right now?
I am definitely, the zombie apocalypse is upon us. I'm trying to keep the ones in my own head locked up and double locked these days. It's easy to get kind of sucked into everything that's going on and find yourself wasting a lot of time and energy and concern on things that really weren't your intention as you started the day. So yeah, I'm weathering the same storm I'm sure you are there in Atlanta. So how's the world where you look? How's it look from your angle?
Well, it's been different. I find myself asking people how they're doing, and this exciting time we're living in, rather than what I used to say is how you're doing in this crazy new normal that we're in. So just that shift has helped me to think of it a little bit differently. We just got back to Atlanta. My wife was laid off from a career that she has been in for quite some time, and our lease was up. We went down to South Florida for about 8 weeks and ended up in Charleston for a couple of weeks. We lived as gypsies for 2.5 months, and now we're back here in the ATL area. Certainly have been through the, as you call it, the external zombies, working through that and just doing our best to make some choices that are consistent with the people we're committed to be in the face of some very challenging times. And so it's really been all over the place, to be just completely straight. It's been a little bit of, as they say in those old Western movies, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's been all over the place, and I teach this stuff, but I've still gotten sucked into that external zombie environment from time to time and just had to fight and kick and claw to get out of it. And right now I'm feeling pretty warrior-esque, so thanks for asking.
Yeah, that's good. I found it very interesting what you just said. Even though you teach this stuff, even though this is what you counsel your clients or your kids, or still, when the things are as wild as they are right now, it's easy to get pulled into that, even when you know it's not what you want to do. So I find that fascinating, and I think I appreciate your honesty there. I mean, that's true. And it sounds like you've been going through some things on a personal front here that a lot of our listeners are going through as well. It's the impact of this COVID-19 and the other reactions to that from both government and business, and just the whole world is causing us to kind of take a step back, and maybe there's things that we didn't choose that happened, like you said, your wife lost the job, or the job went away, and now she's refocusing, and you're refocusing, and lived like just gypsies. Been there and done that myself, by the way, just so you know. But it's good. I'm glad you're feeling warrior-esque today. So that's good. Any other things going on in your world that, in terms of, we'll talk about more where you're at from a business and what you're focused on, but anything in particular that's messing with your day to day?
It's only been a disruption for all of us. That's probably an understatement. Well, what can happen, and we talk a lot about consciously creating a structure, an environment that supports conditions that are favorable for the experience of life that we want. I mean, that's may sound a little cliche, but it's our choices, our disciplines, the people, the environment, what we set up around us that supports that. So what happened, about 2.5, 3 months ago, depending on how you call it, that structure, that external structure was completely blown up. It was completely disrupted. And when this happens, when there's times of external stress, it tends to breed internal stress, and the lowest common denominator oftentimes can be reverting back to tendencies, habits, inclinations that just don't serve us. And, I'm reminded of a conversation I had many years ago that I didn't even remember. A good friend of mine, I've been friends with this man for 25 years. He reminded me that I said this, and I still don't remember saying it, but he said, our good habits, our healthy habits, they can take a tremendous amount of time, energy, discipline, and effort to implement. And they're very easy sometimes to go away. On the flip side, those unhealthy habits, David, the ones that you might call the internal zombies, they're always ready, man. They're always ready to come back and set up shop. And so when this type of stuff happens, I was reminded of the last crisis that happened that impacted not just me, a tremendous amount of people, when the real estate market dropped, and I had bought a company that was 75 to 80% dependent on the real estate market. And I was left holding the bag. I bought a company to have multiple streams of income, and I had multiple streams of expenses, and that just brought about this massive suck. And eventually that became the catalyst for, as you know, getting out of that tremendously difficult time and writing the book, The Ripple Effect, and that's changed my life in a very positive way. Here's the point I'm making. When this thing happened, I had a lot more resources. I had a lot more friends. I had a lot more money. I had a lot more love in my life. I theoretically had a better attitude, and mentally and emotionally was better equipped to handle this crisis, and I still got sucked in. I mean, it felt like the same thing that had happened back then when I had no money and no friends and no good attitude and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but when this crisis happens, sometimes we're reminded of previous crises when we didn't operate so powerfully, and we can get sucked right back in. And it can take a little bit of tweaking and people and adjustments, mentally, emotionally, and otherwise, to warrior out of that.
We haven't talked for a little bit, and I now remember we had a shared journey because 2008, 2009 devastated me as well. And I would say I could characterize where I was at that point in time versus where I am now as being similar to yours. I wasn't prepared for it. It totally knocked the pins out. And this time you would think, and I think I am, and it feels like you are too. Again, I didn't know you that well back in the time frame that you're talking about before, but I can see the warrior, the resiliency, some of the things that are the roots of those things that are probably there now that maybe weren't back then. And I know they are in my life. So But yeah, it's still a struggle. And I know a lot of warriors are listening to us going, okay, so give me something that will kind of help me through this. So let's do this. I'm going to land the plane for this segment and this check-in, because I really want to hear your story in this next segment, hear about how you got to today. And then after that, in the next segment, after that, we'll talk about where you're going. But let's talk about that. So when we come back, we're going to hear a little snippet of Ricky Jean Wright, and it's not the getting there. And you're listening to Warrior versus Zombie with Doug Grady.
But the miles become the teacher while the student learns real slow, traveling blind most of the time. Wherever you go, it's not the getting there, it's the journey every day. It's
all right, we're back
to see
with the second segment of Warrior versus Zombie with Doug Grady, and had an awesome check-in segment. And now I'm really excited for you to hear Doug's journey, how he got to be where you are. So Doug, tell us your story. Tell us a little bit about how you got here.
Oh, as my father sometimes says very carefully, my background, well, growing up, I was very shy. People don't believe this when I tell them, because I speak to thousands of people all over the country, sometimes out of the country. But I was very shy, very introverted. I'm still introverted, believe it or not. And I was really kind of a geek. My parents put me into the band, the choir, the advanced classes, the arts. I played piano. I played the saxophone. And I was in the choir, and I was shy, introverted, and nervous. And the first thing that got me any type of confidence was really what I would call my first personal development experience. It was sports. When I finally was old enough to rebel, I rebelled by athletics. When I was old enough to say, Mom and Dad, I want to do this, it was sports. And I got into sports. My very first year was my best coach I ever had. He poured into me, saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself, and I got pretty good very quickly as a wrestler, and eventually was third in the state. And it was through applying specific personal coaching to me. First thing that gave me confidence, first thing that gave me leadership. I graduated from Tulane University, not really knowing what I was going to do. I thought I would go into law, and I didn't. I answered an ad in the paper to be a financial planner, supposedly, and 6 weeks later, I'm selling life insurance door to door in San Diego. But that really got me to also address some of the weaknesses I had at that time. Is I was pretty committed to work. I had a pretty hard work ethic, but I didn't sell anything. And so it was, again, a recommitment to personal development, to personal growth, to getting coaching. It's always been people, models, information applied that's really helped me to overcome specific challenges. And I stayed in that industry. If you've got anybody on this call, you know how this industry works. I stayed in that industry just long enough, David, that if I stayed any longer, I never would have left. And sometimes I wonder why I did leave. I mean, because it's been quite a circuitous route since leaving. I left that industry about 4.5 years in. I'd already been to the level of GA as one of the youngest GAs in the company, but there was a calling for me to be in this, what I saw as a coaching, training, teaching, personal development space. And so I got in that industry before I was ready. I made a lot of mistakes. I lost a lot of money, but I did achieve some success. I started working in California with a former employer, someone that I worked with initially in the business, and became a partner with that company. This company still exists. It's highachievers.com. It's a company that I ended up buying. And at this point, I was doing pretty well, living 6 houses from the beach. I was learning from some great mentors and teachers. I had a lot of those boxes checked that I thought really made my life worthwhile. I had a pretty good lifestyle, some good friends, and I guess my partners, David, were a little smarter than I was, because they kind of saw the writing on the wall with real estate and One of them got out immediately. The second one, so it's me and the second one, we're all still friends. He has this great idea. I'll just sell the company to Doug. Sounded like a good idea. I saw a little bit of shift in the economic climate, but I thought, surely it can't get any worse, and I can sell my way out of anything. I found I was dead wrong on both accounts. I found a time when I could not sell my way out of anything, and it certainly got a lot worse. This was around 2007, 2008. As you know, I came with my tail between my legs from California back to Atlanta, and I just ended up in the suck. I mean, I was physically, mentally, emotionally just all over the place. The worst shape of my life. I was drinking excessively, had a bad attitude, and this was on a pretty good day. I was just an absolute wreck. And so that, looking back, that really was a turning point for me, because up to that time, I'd been kind of regurgitating other people's stuff, other people's success principles, just kind of repackaging it, just teaching stuff that everybody teaches, time management and sales and goal setting, not stealing anybody's stuff, but just teaching generic stuff to companies. And this was the first time that I had a kind of a face-to-face decision, a reckoning with who I was being as a man, who I had been as a man, who I wanted to be as a man, and the massive gap between where I was, who I was being, and who God made me to be, quite frankly. And so it was that turnaround. It took a while. It started with just a recommitment to physical exercise, and that recommitment to physical exercise eventually created a ripple effect, which, no pun intended, is the name of the book, and that's why it's the name of the book. In every area of my life, I caught up on over, I don't remember the exact figures, but I was 6 figures in debt to the IRS. I was 3.5 months behind on my rent. I was 8 hours away from pawning my last physical possession, my car, and something miraculous happened. A buddy of mine called and said, "Hey, you want to go work out tomorrow?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love to, but I got to go pawn my car." And he's like, "I got a better idea. How about I move in with you?" I mean, this was like a gift from God. I was finally resigned to my fate. He calls up and says, "Hey, how about I move in with you?" I said, 3 months up front, and you're in. He shows up the next day with a check. I never pawned the car. When you commit, I find that when you commit to things, just weird stuff happens out of the blue that moves you in that direction. That was one of those weird, not the only thing, but certainly one that's vivid in my mind. So that just changed. It changed my business, changed my life. Really, I'd say, David, my life changed, and then my business changed. And that's really what I believe. It's what I teach. It's what I coach. It's what I mentor. When you and I, it's not me or you, it's anybody. When we get committed to something that's close to our core, that we're previously uncommitted to, all kinds of stuff will happen that never would happen before, including, but not limited to, growing the business. So it's interesting. You have people on here that, many of them truly have arrived. I mean, they're successful. They've got multi-millions of dollars. They've got everything they've ever wanted. I would not say that I've ever arrived. I probably never will. I mean, I still struggle with things. I struggled, as you know, at the beginning of this call, I struggled with this whole COVID schmovid. It was a challenge for me. My underlying go-to negative emotion, we all have them. They never go away. No matter what people tell you, they never fully go away. They're always there. They're always ready to nip you at the heels or just overtake your life. For me, the negative emotion is anxiety. It's an underlying unrest with everything in my life. And so I structure my life. I make decisions. I create disciplines. I create an environment that supports. I even have a mouse pad here that I just ordered. It's got my 3 favorite words from the ripple effect. Do it anyway. Just these little reminders, structures, disciplines that create conditions favorable for not the elimination of negative emotions. I don't believe in that. I used to believe in that. I'll never feel this way again. I'll never think this way again. I'll never fear. I'll never be uncertain. I'll never doubt. I think that's a load of crap. I think that that's impossible. I don't believe that. But what I do believe is I can have a little bit more of something and a little bit less of something, a little bit more trust, a little more faith, a little more confidence, a little more certainty, a little bit less stress, a little less anxiety, a little less fear, a little less anger. And I believe the choices that I make and the implementation of those choices makes a difference in that swing. So that's what I strive to do more often than not. Very imperfect.
Well, actually, that's very profound. And I couldn't agree with you more in terms of your takeaway or your thought there, is because really everything in life we require challenge and support, not just support. So if your challenge, your anxiety challenge, as you pointed out, is always there. It's balancing that out. We have both. If you're just seeking support or you're imagining only support, right? That's called a fantasy. That is a fantasy. And a fantasy doesn't exist. If you only see challenge, that's called depression. And so you've got to have this balance. And we require both to grow, right? We require both to stay on our journey. And so you're right. It's not a destination. When you say people that have arrived, that's one of the reasons why my theme song is it's not the getting there. It's not the destination. It's the journey every day. And so that is precisely what a warrior realizes, is that we're out there, you're out there fighting it every day. And the challenges, as you point out, along your journey, it sounds like you've had pretty crazy ups and downs, like a lot of us have, and I appreciate you sharing that. Any other part of your story to get to today that we should be aware of? I know we talked a little bit in the check-in, but
well, David, there's always something that is within our power to make the difference, and it's the times it doesn't feel like that. It's the times when the pandemic's breaking out, there's riots in the streets, you don't feel well, a loved one is hurting. It's those times when you feel helpless, when you feel like you're out of control, when you feel like you really don't have any choice. It's those times when the choices are even more important. And it doesn't have to be a grandiose, just massive overhaul. I look at just what's one simple shift. I know I don't feel like it. I know I don't want to. I know it sucks right now. I just wrote a blog. The title was, it was, so what now? So life sucks. So what now? So you had more money before you were, because the catalyst for this, David, is I'm training for a Spartan Super, and I've done some athletic pursuits in the last 5 years since double hip replacement surgery, but none of those have included running more than two miles. And so yesterday's run called for intervals. I don't know if you've done a little running, right? You were on a run today. And so yesterday's run was intervals. It was, the slow interval was supposed to be somewhere between 11:15 and 11:40. The fast interval was supposed to be somewhere around 10 minutes, 9:40 to 10 minutes. So what this ended up for me was more like, instead of a jog run, it was a jog walk. And I ended up 13-minute miles on this thing that was supposed to be an average of 10-minute miles. And I'm like, what the heck? I mean, this sucks. And I just thought about it. I'm dripping. I was laboring. This wasn't like a flow workout either. It wasn't like I was just like a walk in the park. I was sweating. I was tired. I was sore. I mean, I've run marathons before. Like, what the hell is wrong with me? And so I went down that rabbit hole. This absolutely sucks. And then I was reminded of our time in Florida, and we saw a lot of sea turtle nests, and the sea turtle represents as a symbol of consistency. And they struggle, they reach obstacles, but they keep moving forward. And I thought, well, okay, maybe I can just be a sea turtle today. I can just struggle. I cannot feel good, but I can keep moving forward. So, whatever it is, the business got disrupted, the finances got disrupted, the work, your spouse, your company got disrupted. All the above happened to me. I'm a professional speaker. How many professional speaking engagements do you think I had in the last 3 months? I mean, my business is upside freaking down. So what? Now what? Now what breeds a choice? I can do something, a little something different to move forward. That was the first 4 miles I've done in 6 years. So that in itself was a little bit of progress, and hopefully the next 4 miles will be maybe just a little bit faster. So I can count that as progress from where I am. I'm not behind, although I feel like here's the best part, or the worst part, however you look at it. I'm on this Runkeeper app, and every 5 minutes, the Runkeeper is saying that this beautiful, nagging electronic voice, you are behind your target pace by an X amount of minutes and seconds. And so I've got that. We all have that nagging. It reminded me of the nagging voice that's self-induced, like that judgment, that critic, all the negativity that can come out of our brain if we don't consciously choose something else. So yes, it sucks. Yes, you're not as strong. Yes, your finances aren't as good. Whatever the heck that is. So what? What's next?
I love it. Yeah, actually, you're exactly right. I don't know if you know Scott Schilling, but his book that he just wrote is That Sucks, Now What? So it basically he was a guest on Warrior versus Zombie, I think episode 5. But Scott and I have been pretty well connected through this, and exactly it's. Yeah. Okay. Acknowledge what's going on and move forward. So, well, let's do this. Let's put a pin in this segment, and we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll kind of talk about where you're at. I want to talk a little bit more the impact you've had on my life, a ripple effect. I really that book is still new in my mind as far as the things making these small decisions that end up with big impact. And I want to hear about kind of some of the things that you're doing right now, why you're doing them, the value you see yourself providing, and if anything were possible, where are you going in the next segment? So with that, let's hear a little bit more from Ricky Jean Wright here on Warrior versus Zombie, and we'll be back with Doug Grady in the next segment.
How many people know your name? One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there. When you get there, you'll know. Funny how wisdom and youth are
all right. Now, welcome back to Warrior versus Zombie, and we've had a great couple of segments already. And Doug, you have an amazing story, and it's exciting to hear. And now I want to kind of talk a little bit, bring us to today and to this point in time, and really want to talk about what you're doing, how you are making some of the changes that you've had to make because of the COVID, because of other challenges, and just where are you now? Why are you continuing to do what you're doing? The value you see yourself or you're striving to provide, and if anything were possible, where would you go from here?
Thanks, David. Every significant progression in my life has been supported by people. So coaches, mentors, structures, models. And oftentimes those coaches, structures, mentors, and models appear at a time of crisis. That certainly happened for me in 2007, 2008. I intentionally surrounded myself with a community of people. I got a physical coach as soon as I could afford it. I've got a mental mentor. I started studying different business strategies, even though I couldn't really afford a business coach at that time. I now have a business coach. I have a mental coach. I have a health and fitness coach. And I've got a couple of other mentors that I can go to. So my belief, and I live this, I teach this, is that we always need people we can look up to that are looking down and pouring into us. Those could be coaches, mentors, even people that you read about if you're not ready to make an investment in a professional arrangement. To the side, we need peers and partners. We need people that we can lock arms with, that share our pain, share our triumph, share our struggle, people that are on our somewhat same level. Doesn't even mean they're in the same industry, but I joined a community of people, and there were other entrepreneurs there and other people that were in similar situations, and they became peers and partners. And I think we also need people that we can invest into, people that look up to us, people that are following us that we can pour into. And so that has become even more structured for me. I kind of stumbled into one-on-one coaching unintentionally. Our core program, as you know, 40 Days of Focus, is a personal discipline that people do every day for 40 consecutive days. And through that, I just kind of bumped into people that wanted to work with me more, just more strategically, more intimately, to create the results more fervently and more intensely. And so I've done that quite a bit. I've done more one-on-one this year than I did last year. Last year I did more than I did the year before without even really trying. People just kind of show up. And so I had it in my head for a while to do a group online coaching program. And it was in my head for a while. It was in my head for about a year and a half. And then this exciting time that we're living in hit full force. And intuitively, I knew, even though the money was just completely stopped, my speaking engagement had completely stopped. I still had some coaching, which kind of kept the lights on. But I intuitively knew it was important to invest resources and money into the business. And so I took a significant amount of money, particularly with no money coming in, not the same amount of money coming in. And I invested that money into my business coach. And I worked my butt off to develop a program, an online group coaching program that I had never had before, that I'd never done before. It was in my head, but it was never in practice, never implemented. And so I launched that program down in Florida while we were living down there as gypsies. And I did it for a company called Ecuador International Company. And we did it for their Central Florida group. We had 12 of their A players go through the program, which gave me a structure to articulate and develop the program. It was 8 weeks with one guest expert, my friend Peter Montoya, on leadership. Every week there were testimonials. Every week there was training. Every week there was teaching in the area of structure and how to make simple shifts and performance standards. And man, it was absolutely extraordinary, the results that people got out of that program. So this is something that was birthed out of this most recent exciting time that we're living in. It really can be an exciting time that we're living in if we can make the adjustments and make the pivots and make the just shifts that are necessary to thrive in this current reality that we're in. And so, next week I'm actually launching round 2 of this, the very first public program of, we just call it Go Big, take your business and your life to the next level. And I'm excited about it because it's, from a strategic standpoint, I've never been the most strategic business guy in my life. I kind of just follow my gut or my heart. That doesn't always serve business, but from a strategic standpoint, this is scalable. I don't have to go to 18 to 20 cities every year to generate the same type of impact, perhaps even more impact from my computer than I do from going to 20 cities every year. Not that I won't do that again. I love doing that, but this is just it's an addition to the business. It's a brand new thing that didn't exist 3 months ago. And man, I'm excited about it, mostly because I can do something for people I've never been able to do before. I can get on this, magical box here and pour into 10 to 12 people over 8 weeks and see the progression in their business and in their life firsthand and have some kind of impact on that. And that lines up with the man that I'm committed to be, not just professionally, but personally.
A couple of things about that. First of all, I always love this segment with the warriors because if you're a warrior, which you are, and you're looking at things, you recognize that it's never fully going back, right, to the where it was. So you look, when something like this happens, this major change, you've learned the things that I've learned and most of the warriors here is that I got to look for the doors that have opened ahead of me, not focus on the ones that closed behind me. And like you say, you can't speak on stages, but with this miraculous tool called Zoom that we're using to record this podcast, and also I use to run my networking group. I had a network meeting yesterday with literally 50 people, 40 of them on Zoom and 10 people in the room. So it's what I call augmented reality networking meetings. So something that we had to learn to do. So, and I frankly have learned that there are certain things that it makes no sense to try and go back and do those in person, or it makes more sense, maybe not no sense, but it makes more sense to keep going forward with, like you said, a program that you can do from your office and don't have to get on a plane. And like you say, I still want to be in the room. I'm a full-on extrovert. I still want to be hugging people and shaking hands and all of those things. And I miss all of that. But short of that, I can sure expose and have more impact on a larger number of people in a shorter period of time if I just focus on how to do that. And that's what you're doing. And I think that's brilliant.
Well, thank you.
No, I do. I think it's brilliant, and I'm excited to see how it plays out. And you're on this journey, right? So it's one day at a time, one project at a time, one step at a time. But you know what? It is a team sport, and I'm sure there are going to be people either in the classes or warriors on this, listening to this podcast or whatever, that are going to line up with you, that are going to be aligned with what you're trying to do here. And I'm sure there'll be some success there. So anything else before we move into the last segment as far as where you're at? If anything were possible, where would this lead? I know that you're kind of focused on the next project, the next workshop, but you're trying to help people, as you say, as we said in the introduction, help people live up to their God-given potential. I assume that's still your focus.
Yes, you've got this analogy of the warrior and the zombie, and I really like that, David. There's an author that I've been studying for several years now. His name is David R. Hawkins. He's written several books. He's passed away. His most famous book is called Power versus Force. He was a scientist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a medical doctor. I mean, there's many accolades after his name. Most importantly, as far as I'm concerned, he was a spiritual advisor. And his concept is that we're either serving our higher self or we're serving something other than that. He calls it the lower self. And the higher self, I'm not here to get into religious or faith beliefs, but the higher self comes from something other than you, something higher than the physical personality self. And the lower self is the ego and the anger and the frustration and the emotion. Not that anger and frustration are necessarily bad, but when they take us out of our higher self, there's something other than that. So, what I want to do, I've been saying God-given potential for probably 15 years now. It's just another way of saying, can we access our higher self more often? Can we be the person? For me, it's the person God made me to be. If you don't want to call it that, can you live your best self? Can you be we all have a greater self, whether you want to call it God or something other than that. We all have this higher self, and we know we're there. Sometimes we're there, and a lot of times we are, quite frankly, not. So I'm not like everybody, but for me, sometimes I wonder why I have to have so many structures and so many disciplines and so many, I do an hour meditation every day. I work out almost every day. I write in a journal every day. I look at this. I've got a business journal that I do every day. When I do those things and when I search and seek to be at the higher self more often, create conditions for that are favorable for that, my life works a lot better. When I don't do that stuff, wow, man, I can be an absolute train wreck. And so that's what I want to help people with what I need help with, quite frankly. And that's really why I think I'm good at it, because I can see these sticking points between faith and fear. I can see these sticking points between anxiety and just complete confidence, because I have them and I can talk to them and I can help people with this little edge that I get to and that they get to. And I think that's maybe one of the reasons I'm here, and I'm just going to go with that.
Well, that's a great thing to go with. And actually, I find it fascinating because you said something earlier in our conversation about, I teach this stuff, but I still have to deal with it myself. And the reality of it is, you and I are very similar in that you're teaching it because you had to learn it yourself, and you have to remind yourself over and over again. Everything I teach on my journey and what I'm doing for people that come into my path today is based upon what I had to learn myself, maybe the hard way. And I'm trying to help people not have to go through everything that I went through. And because I've already walked that part of the journey myself, I can probably I know one person that I met calls it a Sherpa. I can show you where not to step and where to go. And that's really what you're describing, which is awesome and very authentic, by the way. That's really, I think, the best coaches, the best people are the ones that recognize that they're serving something higher than themselves. And I call it God too. I'm a Christian. I don't make any bones about that. I don't beat people over the head with it. If you want to call your higher power or your higher source the universe or something else other than God, as I call it, that's okay. I believe that's the source of all truth. So I don't think I have a original thought here. I don't think I've come up with something that nobody else has come up with. I think that everything that I discover that is true as a warrior are things that were there already, and I just discovered them because my source, I can go to the book, I can go to my Bible, and I can find every concept that we teach in self-help or development. And so, I mean, I don't apologize for that. So that's great. Well, let's do this. Let's bring this part of the episode to a close. And what we'll do is we'll come back, and you've covered a ton of ground here. There's a lot of thoughts and a lot of nuggets, I think, that the warriors will take away from this. But when we come back, I want you to give the audience a couple things that you think, if we take away nothing else from this podcast, that you would like to see us take away. And then I want to make sure that everybody knows how to stay in touch with you or follow up with you. And then we'll land the plane and we'll call it an episode.
Funny how wisdom and youth are always two different games. The years flew by so fast, is the common human complaint. The memories in our minds turn to diamonds in our soul. And by the grace of God, on down.
All right, we're back with a final land the plane segment of Warrior versus Zombie, and it's been an awesome journey here with Doug Grady, and I'm excited to hear his summary, the couple, three things, if anything, we take away anything from this podcast, Doug, what would they be?
Well, David, the subtext of everything I do is that one simple choice can change the course of your life. And when it feels like it's not the right time, or you don't have the right state of mind or the right environment, many times that's the time you absolutely must make one simple choice that could change the course of your life. It doesn't have to be the forever choice, the best choice, the perfect choice. But positive change begins with a positive choice. And the older I become and the more I look back at my life and where the real breakthroughs, where the real progress has happened, it's never been alone. It's always been with people, environments, communities, coaches, and mentors that have supported me in becoming greater than I could be without them, sometimes exponentially. And so this latest exciting time that we're living in has been no exception. It's been the people, the mentors, the loved ones, the people that I pay, quite frankly, oftentimes, that have supported me in staying the course to keep growing personally, professionally, and spiritually in the direction that I believe I'm here for. So choose and get some help.
I love it. Those are really powerful nuggets, and I think that I'm not sure we've even had those in previous episodes, but no choice is a choice, right? I mean, so we have the opportunity to take a positive choice forward every day, no matter what the situation is around us. So that's a beautiful takeaway that we should have. And then the other one is my way of saying it, but you're saying it, is that life is a team sport. So engage the people around you, whether they're paying you, you're paying them. It doesn't matter. We're all in this together, and we're all in it together, and nobody gets out alive. So helping us go through this time and the future that we all hope to enjoy is a beautiful thing. So, well, this has been great, Doug. I really, really appreciate. I know the audience is really going to be excited and appreciative of you sharing your journey and where you're at and where you're going. But how do we keep in touch with you? Because I know you're going to continue on down the road here, and so how do we keep in touch with you? What's the best way to do that?
Easy to keep in touch. Just DougGrady.com has all my social media on there. I'm Doug Grady on most social media, with the exception of Instagram. I'm Doug L. Grady there, so you can shoot me a message on any of those, and I'd love to stay connected. I got a master class called Go Big, Take Your Business and Life to the Next Level coming up. I can get you details. You shoot me a message. Love to have you on there as my guest.
Yeah, I'm excited about that one. I actually signed up for that one. I like the price. So no, it's right now we've all got a little more time than money, and regardless of the cost, it's going to be exciting to kind of reconnect with you. Your 40 days of focus made a huge change in my life. I think I've shared this with my audience before, but the concept of just saying I wanted a six-pack abs and started out every day doing a plank and working on a plank challenge led me to all kinds of life changes, that ripple effect, if you will, to now I'm 70 pounds lighter and off all medications and have a aspiration to live to 120 with the vitality of a 30-year-old. So I still got work to do and a lot of life to live. But anyway, yeah, Doug, I appreciate it. You've made a great impact in my life. I'm sure this episode will speak to a lot of folks, and I appreciate being able to get in touch with you. And for those that are listening to Warrior versus Zombie, I appreciate it if you would share this podcast. We're on every platform you can think of, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, have a YouTube channel, and myvisionwarrior.com. Find us just about anywhere, but please like, subscribe, share, and we'll look forward to seeing you and having you hear more episodes as we go forward. And again, finally, Doug, just thank you very much. I appreciate you sharing this, your most valuable asset, which is your time. And I appreciate you sharing it with me and the audience. Have a beautiful day.
It's not the getting there, it's the journey every day. It's not a race to see how many people know your name. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there. When you get there, you'll know. One day you realize time was worth more than the gold. It's not the getting there. When you get there, you'll know.